There we go. So welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining. My name is Kim. I'm a registered holistic nutrition consultant, and I'm also a certified metabolic balance coach. So I've been doing nutrition consulting for about 7 years now, and 6 of those years I've been a metabolic balance coach. So I'd like to talk about metabolic balance today because it's still really one of the best tools that I have to help clients quickly achieve their goals, right? It's not the only way we can get there, but it is certainly still a really good tool that I have. So some of the things that you can expect with any nutrition work, particularly with metabolic balance, is, I'm just trying to get a little clicker off here. So achieve and maintain healthy weight, control blood sugar levels, reduce cravings, reduce inflammation, joint pain, immune function, improve immune function, not reduce immune function, improve digestion, reduce bloating, heartburn, constipation, balance hormones, reduce menopause symptoms, better sleep, mood, energy, decrease allergies and intolerances, and significant improvement in type 2 diabetes, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and metabolic syndrome, pardon me. So just in case you don't know what metabolic syndrome is a cluster of factors that increase your chance of developing either heart disease, diabetes, or stroke. Risk factors include belly fat. So if you're a woman, that means a waist circumference over 35 inches. And if you're a man, that would be a waist circumference over 40 inches. And a couple of other factors include blood sugar dysregulation and unhealthy cholesterol levels. So Metabolic Balance is an individualized nutrition program that's based on it's over 25 years of experience now, and they're present in at least 30 countries. So what you get is a very personalized nutrition plan that will be generated based on your blood values, health conditions, measurements, food preferences. Even what you do for a living is taken into account. So highly individualized. So Metabolic Balance was actually developed by a German doctor, and his name was Dr. Wolf Funfack. And Dr. Funfack originally designed the program to deal with inflammation in his patients and also to deal with that metabolic syndrome that we just talked about a few seconds ago. What he noticed, or a side effect of the work, was that his patients were shedding weight, so they were releasing weight. So using blood values combined with a really in-depth analysis of food, he was able to come up with food prescriptions for his patients, right? So this is an approach that really uses food therapeutically, which I love. So Dr. Funfack's wife was a naturopath, and I like to think that she brought that kind of holistic, whole body preventative approach to the program. So as their success grew, the couple brought in a food technologist that specialized in foods and their effects. And today, the exclusive Metabolic Balance software program is based on an extensive food database that's being continually refined and adjusted to reflect current research, right? So the effectiveness of the Metabolic Balance program has been the subject of an independent comparative study that was published in the Journal of Nutrition in December 2010. And so you can check it out. So there's the link to the program, or I can send it to you if you're interested. So if we're talking weight loss, and you're going to see as we go through the presentation with Metabolic Balance, we are not, certainly not just a weight loss program, but for folks that do have that as a health goal, the success of a weight loss program is measured based on following standards. So when they do studies, certain standards have to be followed. So the first one is that the original body weight must be reduced by at least 5%, and this weight loss has to be maintained for at least a year. So that's the kicker. So it's not just about losing weight, it's also about maintaining that weight loss. The other The other thing that has to be reached is that 50% of participants have to reach this target, right? So the results that they came up with from the study was that 63% of metabolic balance participants reached the target, and 31% of that lost more than 10%. So 63% of the participants lost at least 5%, and they maintained the weight loss for over a year. So the important thing here is that that 50% threshold wasn't achieved by any other program, okay? I think the closest runner-up was Weight Watchers, and that was around 22%. So the conclusion that the researchers came to from this study was that the Metabolic Balance Nutrition Program aims at permanently changing our clients' lifestyle, right? So that's a really big aspect of the whole program. We're not just looking at weight loss for sure. It's really, changing those lifestyle habits in order to sustain the new healthy habits. So I should note here that it's also impossible to get a metabolic balance program without the coaching component, right? So changing lifestyle is big, changing habits is big, and that's really a big part, like I said, of the success. So the metabolic balance philosophy, every individual is capable of producing all the hormones and enzymes that are required for a balanced metabolism. Using internal signals, every individual with a balanced metabolism is then capable of seeking out the foods that contain these building blocks. So what does this mean? The first part basically means that we all have what it takes to be balanced and healthy and well, okay? It's really about giving the body the right elements, the right fuel in order to achieve that, okay? The second part of this statement kind of leans into intuitive eating. So a big part of what I do with clients is getting them to make the connections between what's going in their mouth and how they're feeling, right? Some of the connections that I've been just kind of, as I was putting the presentation together, some of the things that have come up just in the last few months. So folks, what they notice when they deviate, allergies flare up, cravings return, sleep goes off the rails, bloating comes back. And on the flip side, some of the things that they notice when they stick with the real foods and the program is toenail fungus goes away, pain goes away, herpes doesn't flare up, migraines or headaches go away, eczema clears up, energy goes up, bladder infections start coming back, all right? I like to refer to all those things as the red flag symptoms. And those are the things that I really get people to tune into and pay attention. So why the Metabolic Balance Program works so well is really because of first of all, we are balancing insulin levels. The second thing we're doing with the program is improving digestion. Third thing we're doing is improving elimination. So those are really the three pillars that we're talking about when it comes to the Metabolic Balance Program. Besides those pillars, with the coaching, some of the things that I really like to lean into are probiotic nutrition and gut health. So that's a big part of the picture. Stress management is huge, and solid sleep hygiene principles. So I hope you're starting to see that this is really a global program. We're not just, we're not just focusing on counting calories. We're not just cutting fat. For sure not cutting fat. It's really this really nice holistic program, which I love. So cravings. Cravings are much less about willpower and much, much more about what you're eating. This is really, really important. Something that almost 100% of clients will report is they have significant reduction in cravings. So cravings are caused by several factors. And but one of the really important things that will have an impact on cravings is the insulin levels. So let me just do a quick check-in here before I go any further. Can I have a thumbs up? Is everybody seeing me and hearing me okay? Yeah, Norma says, okay, thank you. Thank you, Pauline. Okay, great. So I just want to remind everyone that I will take questions at the end. You can jot them down. For folks that are coming in, I did put some housekeeping things in the chat. So back to insulin. Permanently high insulin or chronic high insulin will have the following effects in the body, right? High insulin will drive up cravings. So when cravings are out of control, this is a deep physiological urge and a deep hunger. It's very, very hard to control. High insulin will have an impact on our cholesterol levels. This is huge. High insulin has an impact on triglycerides, has an impact on our stress hormones. So adrenaline and cortisol will go up, which will also lead to that belly fat for some people, which can lead to high blood pressure. High insulin is a fat storage or a fat stockpiling hormone. So insulin is huge. Insulin will make you gain weight when it's chronically high. Now, on the flip side, high insulin levels will have a negative effect on our melatonin. So melatonin is our natural sleep hormone. Some of you may have noticed, as teens or in your 20s, sleep was great. And as you got older, sleep started going off the rails. I'm just going to mute. So if you're just coming in, if you could mute yourselves, please. And then you can take yourselves off mute to ask questions at the end. So high insulin can lead to decreased melatonin, which is our natural sleep hormone, which will interfere with sleep. DHEA and human growth hormone. So those are our sex hormones. DHEA is the precursor to testosterone and progesterone. We don't want these hormones going down, okay? These hormones also have really important anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. And the last thing is, it is very, very hard to lose weight when you have permanently high insulin levels, okay? So I hope, again, that you're seeing and getting the big picture here. I like to think of insulin as the master commander in the body, okay? Again, you can also see where this is a preventative program. It is far from just being a weight loss program, and kind of going back to what Dr. Funfak noticed when he was developing it. We're touching on so many body systems and doing such a great job for prevention that weight loss is actually kind of like the cherry on the cake. It's just the side effect of doing all of this really, really important work. So, excuse me, the hibernation principle. So what is it that makes these animals hibernate start stockpiling and building up fat in order to get through the long winter? Okay, so before I flick to the next slide, I want you to think of foods that are commonly available in the fall time. So think about our orchards that are full of fruit. Think about the combines in the field that are harvesting grains. Think about the gourds and the squash. Think about ripe berries, okay? What all these foods have in common is they are all higher carbohydrate foods. Certainly not bad foods, not at all. But we are talking about foods that have a higher sugar content and that have a higher carbohydrate content, all right? High carbohydrate foods that contain more sugar, will jack up insulin levels, okay? It's not the only factor, but it is one factor. We learned just a minute ago that high insulin has an impact on our cravings and will drive very, very serious hunger, okay? So what that leads to is fat storage. So another reason I put this slide here is because I'm really hoping that perhaps this will help to change the lens through which some of you view your body. So this may not apply to everyone, but I do come across people quite often that have this feeling of being betrayed by their bodies. They've tried everything, nothing works, they can't shed the weight. So I really just want to kind of, like I said, maybe change the lens and just kind of illustrate about how amazing our bodies are, right? So all of this is actually happening physiologically just to help us survive the long winter, okay? So it's much more about building our plates. You know, perhaps it's about not building a plate that always looks like fall time, if that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense, okay? With metabolic balance, you're really going to learn how to build your plate so that it's exactly right for you, okay? So inflammation. We know that inflammation is rampant. It's very, very present today. If you think of any condition that ends with itis, so if we're talking colitis, if we're talking arthritis, all of the itises are inflammatory conditions, all right? If we talk about heart disease, if we talk about Crohn's disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, asthma, diabetes, are all inflammatory conditions. So I have a lot of clients that actually come to the program that have zero weight to lose, but that are looking to control inflammation. So again, this was the original reason that the plan was developed, okay? So what happens with inflammation, and this is one of the factors, it's not the only one, is when we take poor quality fats. So when I'm talking poor quality fats, I'm talking about the fats that are commonly present in highly processed foods. When I say highly processed foods, think about anything that sits on the grocery store shelf that sits in a box, okay? Your breakfast cereal, certain kinds of breads, not all breads are created equal, but certain breads, muffins, cake mixes, microwave popcorn, okay? The list goes on and on and on. All of these foods have had the beneficial fats taken out and replaced by these highly processed inflammatory fats, right? In the name of shelf life. So those fats combined with the high insulin that we were talking about before will lead to inflammation. So this is a really big part of the puzzle for a lot of people, okay? The other thing is that for people that are carrying around a little bit of extra weight, fat cells in themselves will actually create inflammation in the body, okay? Overweight children actually show higher inflammatory markers in the blood than normal weight children, all right? All right, so how it works. So I do offer an information session aside from this one. So everyone is welcome. I offer a free 30-minute chat. And I do that in order, first of all, to see so that we can take a deep dive into your personal health conditions and your personal goals. And also just to see if it's a good fit, right? So there are certain conditions for which metabolic balance isn't maybe the right program. So we can certainly do that. Second, we'll need blood tests. So if you're in Quebec, I will provide you with a requisition that you will need to get signed by your family doctor. And then you will take that requisition to a private lab and go get your blood tests. Private labs, pretty quick, we get the results back within about 24 hours, okay? If you're anywhere else in Canada, I have a requisition that's been signed by our metabolic balance Canadian doctor, and you can go directly to the private lab and get your blood work done. It's important to note that the blood tests are not used to diagnose, so that is beyond my scope of practice. I'm not using the blood tests in any other way. And metabolic balance is also not a diagnostic program, okay? So, yeah, so blood tests are only used to generate the nutrition plan. The next thing we're going to collect are all of the intake forms. So I have pretty extensive intake forms. Anyone that's worked with me know that that's pretty extensive. And then, so once I have the blood and I have all of your information, I can enter everything into the system. and your metabolic balance plan will be created in Germany. So Metabolic Balance is situated in Germany, and they're actually making the nutrition plan. So I'm entering the information. And again, I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, it's impossible to get a metabolic balance plan without the coaching aspect. Okay, so the coaching aspect is really an integral part of the whole process. So the program is divided into 4 phases. So phase 1 is a preparation phase. It lasts 2 days. And basically phase 1 is a very thorough bowel cleanse, and the body, where the body is gently prepared for the nutritional adjustment. So the purpose of phase 1 is really to alkalinize the body. And it's really, like I said, it's really setting a nice foundation for the following phases. So during phase 1, it's not a starvation phase. You will be eating throughout this phase. You'll be eating light meals, mostly vegetable meals. So listen, we will have had about 3 hours together at this point before you even start phase 1. So you will be well prepared to start this phase. I have recipes. I will direct you on how to do the bowel cleanse. It's all mapped out. So that's all good. Immediately following phase 1, you will be in what's called the strict conversion phase. So during phase 2, and this phase lasts 14 days, okay? So this is really integral to the program. These 2 phases, this total of 16 days. Phase 2 is the only time that I like clients to be in diet mentality, okay? Anyone that knows me or that has worked with me knows that I'm not into diets in any shape or form, okay? However, for this phase, I've just seen over and over again that it works so well, and it's really worth trying to, aim for perfection during this phase. So you will be weighing your food, you will be following the lifestyle guidelines that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. You're going to be eating the foods on your plan. So this is really kind of a detox and an elimination diet. It's really powerful. So 16 days total. And so what is it? Consume only foods on your personal plan, follow the 8 rules, omit added oils and fat. Yes. So during these 14 days, you also won't be cooking with butter or olive oil. So you will be getting beneficial fats from foods like fish, avocado, full fat dairy, if you have dairy on your plan. However, we will omit extra fat from your plan for this phase. And the reason for that is to balance insulin levels, all right? We know that healthy fats are super important, and metabolic balance is not a low fat program by any means, okay? So after the strict phase, this is a little bit misleading. I just copied the little infogram here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there should actually be an extra box here in between called phase 2 relaxed, okay? So phase 2 relaxed, that's between phase 2 and phase 3 here, will begin after the 14 days. So we will meet again. We'll be introducing healthy fats back in, and we'll have a conversation about that. So during phase 2 relaxed, we can start to relax your plan a little bit. We're going to start working at making it livable, making it more doable, okay? During the phase 2 relaxed, we also start incorporating weekly treat meals. So it's really important. I really don't want clients feeling deprived at any time. And the treat meals are also really great for the metabolism, okay? Now, duration of phase 2 relax depends on how quickly you reach your health goals. So this is really different for everybody. Folks that have weight loss goals will obviously be in phase 2 relax for a longer period of time. Folks that are working on inflammation or digestion may stay there shorter. So again, it's really, really individual how long you stay there. Generally, I do not keep anyone less than 6 weeks, okay? So 2 weeks is a really short time to do the metabolic work or the rebalancing that we're doing. So generally it's a total, the shortest would be 6 weeks that you would be in phase 2 relaxed. And some people can be in there for months and months, again, just depending on what you're aiming for, all right? Then we move to phase 3. So phase 3 is a really important phase. It's phase 3 happens when you get close to your health goal, okay, whatever that is. So as you're, either shedding weight or getting closer to what we're aiming for, phase 3 is really about maintenance, okay? I generally keep people in phase 3 for at least 3 to 6 months. This is super important. Maintenance is extremely important, and you've got to get good at it, okay? Because we don't want you yo-yoing, going back and forth with your weight. So again, phase 3 about testing, playing, bringing in different foods, playing around with different carbohydrate levels. Occasionally, I'll also put clients in phase 3 if they're going on vacation, or if there's a holiday coming up, or sometimes if life gets in the way, okay? Folks have been hanging out in phase 3 quite a lot during the pandemic, I have to tell you, okay? Sometimes we need kind and gentle, and an intense weight loss protocol or health protocol is not what the doctor ordered. So, if you're in survival mode, it's not time to be working at any kind of intense health goals. So again, just know that there is the flexibility. We can push the pause button in a way. And then when you're feeling up to it, we can go back if that's needed. All right. And then phase 4 is all about maintenance. So by the time you've reached phase 4, you are an expert. You have fully integrated the lifestyle principles. You know exactly how to build your plate. You have an arsenal full of tools to maintain your new healthy weight or just your overall health, depending on what you're working on. And so also phase 4, what's really important to note is that people in phase 4 can also cycle back to phase 1 and 2 as needed, all right? So I've got clients that did their plan with me 4 or 5 years ago that just cycle back through phase 1 and 2 and do it sometimes a couple times a year, and it's really, really great. I do it myself personally, okay? So once you've got your plan, you've got it for life. And like I said, we can always just cycle back, just push the reset button in a way. So it's just nice to be able to, just push the reset button. So often the reset button is when those red flag symptoms come back, right? So we deviate a little bit, holidays happen, whatever, vacation. Like I said, those red flag symptoms start coming back. Maybe the bloating comes back. Maybe the scale is creeping up. Maybe some of those, the headaches, whatever it is, that's just a good sign for folks to go back, redo phase 1 and 2, easy peasy, and it's all good. So it's really a nice long-term program. So some of the lifestyle guidelines, we have 8 of them. I've only got 4 of them here just for an example. So the first one is that you will only be eating 3 meals a day. So there's no snacking on the program. And that wakes people out sometimes because I've come across some pretty serious snackers. So let me reassure you that when you're eating the right proportion of protein to carbohydrate, you don't get those cravings. Snacking it's not an issue, okay? The no snacking is to balance those insulin levels and to really help streamline digestion. So all of the lifestyle principles are really designed to support one of those 3 pillars that I mentioned at the beginning: balance insulin, improve digestion, or or improve elimination. So those are the 3 pillars that we're always working with. The second guideline is that we're going to make sure that there's a 5-hour break between meals. So it can be anywhere between 5 and 7 hours. It doesn't have to be exactly 5, but we do, again, want to bring down those insulin. Fat burning happens when insulin levels go really low, okay? So this is like a little bit of intermittent fasting kind of built into the program, right? The next one we're going to talk about is we're going to eat only 1 protein per meal. So what does that mean? It means, for example, eggs and bacon are 2 separate proteins. So we will avoid doing that protein stacking. Ham and cheese, those are 2 separate proteins. We'll avoid stacking proteins in that way, okay? The reason for this is because When we stack proteins, it tends to create more acidity in the body. Acidity can equal inflammation, okay? So this is a really important one for folks that are struggling with inflammation and for my weight loss clients as well, okay? Now, does this mean that you will never have bacon and eggs again, or that you'll never have surf and turf again? Absolutely not, all right? Again, during that strict phase, I'm going to encourage you to follow these really, really precisely because we want to get the maximum benefit. But occasionally I do mix my proteins. I try, 80% of the time I try to just stick with one protein. However, it does happen once in a while, okay? The other part of this is that we're going to make sure that we have 3 different proteins with each of your 3 meals. So proteins are made up of amino acids, okay? This is just a way to ensure that we have a nice variety of those essential amino acids in order to maintain health, support the immune system, do all of the important things that protein does, okay? And finally, water. So you will be drinking enough water on your plans. So you'll get a water prescription that will be calculated based on your starting weight. Let me tell you, water is a game changer. It is huge for weight loss, for inflammation, super, super important. All right. So that's just an example of 4 of the 8 guidelines. We will talk about all of this if you decide to dive any deeper. So here I have a meal plan example. So this is actually a meal plan that belongs to one of my clients. Let's call her Jane. So you can see Jane has 3 different breakfast options. She has cheese, vegetables, fruit, and bread. Another breakfast option that she has is yogurt, fruit, and bread. And another one is pumpkin seeds, vegetables, and bread, okay? Some of the other examples that I see for breakfast that show up, occasionally I see clients that get poultry for breakfast, okay? Sometimes I see oatmeal with some kind of milk as the protein element. Sometimes I see meat that comes up at breakfast, and I have seen fish and legumes come up for breakfast, okay? Again, this doesn't necessarily have to be a lifelong thing. As we move forward together, we can tweak things and make it a little bit more livable, but these are some of the things that do occasionally show up, okay? Now we see for her lunch, she has protein mushrooms here as a protein, and we'll talk more about that. Protein mushrooms are not the regular button mushrooms that we see at the grocery store. Legumes, she has cheese again, eggs, poultry, and fish. So something you can notice with Jane's plan is she doesn't have any meat on her plan, all right? Again, this doesn't mean that we never introduced meat. I know for a fact that we brought red meat back for her. However, during that strict phase, I really encouraged her to stick to her plan, okay? And you'll also notice that there are specific quantities with everything. So this is when we're talking about building your plate. These quantities are different for everybody, right? So nobody gets the same proportions or the same quantities. So this is really crucial to kind of moving forward and learning what your proportions or what proportions are right for you. So now if we move forward, these are Jane's protein foods, okay? So if you remember, one of her breakfast was pumpkin seeds and seeds. So she has pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. So that would be the protein component. For fish, these were her selection of fish. Everybody gets different types of fish. It is also possible to block categories. If you really hate fish or really hate yogurt, for example, we can block that so it doesn't show up on your plan, okay? So Jane had a goat yogurt. For her poultry, she had chicken breast or turkey breast. So if I go back, when you see poultry here, she would just plug that in with either chicken or turkey, okay? Where we see fish, she could just plug in either any kind of fish that appeared on her plan, okay? And again, as we move forward, we open up that list because we want all wholesome natural foods to come up. So something you may have noticed with Jane's plan is she didn't get any meat, and she also didn't get any cow dairy on her plan. Now, it's not that those foods are bad. I personally eat meat. I personally eat dairy, cow dairy. There is no problem with these foods. However, occasionally for certain clients, they don't show up. And we will, again, stick with it just for the strict phase to do that reconversion. Moving forward, my goal is always to reintroduce these foods and to do the test. Okay, so it's always about making those connections. So I'm just going to get you guys to mute if you fell off a mute. So she's got legumes. She's got the protein mushroom is shiitake mushroom, and eggs. So now if we look at Jane's carbohydrate foods, you'll notice that the vegetables are in the carbohydrates. So we know that broccoli doesn't pack as much punch as pasta or bread or potatoes, for example. However, vegetables will bring carbohydrates to the table. So that's why there were quantities associated with the vegetables also, okay? So she does have some starch. Sometimes I see wild rice, sometimes I see oatmeal. So those are different types of starch that will show up on the plan. Everyone gets rye bread. So it's a 100% rye, and it's a sourdough rye generally, and fruit. So in Jane's case, she didn't get a very extensive fruit list. So again, I asked her to stick with these fruits just for those 16 days. And as we move forward, we brought in all new fruit, always checking and testing and seeing how things were landing with her. All right. So I hope that's pretty good. I've got just a few testimonials and a few case studies that I wanted to share with you. And then hopefully we have some time for some questions, all right? So, and also I've got permission from these clients to share this information, obviously. All right, so Courtney came to me with PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome. She had also digestive issues, and she had a small, or well, I don't know if it was small, but she had a weight loss goal. So Courtney lost 12 pounds in the first 2 weeks. Generally, you can expect to lose anywhere between 5 and 10 pounds of your original weight in those first 2 weeks. So everything is really designed to, we're doing a lot of things all at once. Obviously, after that, the weight loss does slow a little bit. It can be anywhere between 2 and 5%, okay, on a weekly basis. So, and at 7 weeks, Courtney was down 21 pounds. Her skin was good and her sleep was improved, right? So Courtney says, what I like most are the results. It's crazy how fast you see and feel them. In a short amount of time, I could see my skin clear up and my heartburn was gone. Results like that really motivate you to keep going. It's only been a short amount of time, but I'm really happy with how it makes me feel. And my plan works perfectly for me. I'm eating tons of new things and trying new recipes. I'm not going to lie. The first 2 weeks were very challenging. Not being able to cook with fats, but I got through it. I'm still having a hard time with being cold, but starting to get used to it. So occasionally clients do feel cold when there is a weight loss aspect. So this generally passes, but it is kind of a side effect of weight loss. I can't wait to see how my journey will go as I continue. Working with Kim has been great. She answers your questions. She's very encouraging and motivates you to try new things. Trust me, I'm eating things that at the beginning I said I would never eat. So Courtney lost a total of 31 pounds. Patricia. So Patricia's main goal was mainly weight loss, and she was really coming at the program with prevention in mind. So Patricia says, well, I should say Patricia lost really quickly. She really was very meticulous and also was quite diligent about daily walking. So she was getting the exercise aspect in as well. She did a really great job. So Patricia says, a year ago today, I started on my metabolic balance journey. My goal was to lose 50 pounds within a year. I wondered at that time if this was unrealistic, but with the incredible science behind metabolic balance and the coaching and education from Kim, that 50 pounds was gone after 4.5 months. As great as that was, the biggest challenge was ahead. Would I be able to maintain my goal weight? I'm pleased to say that after celebrating Christmas, New Year's, and a 21-day cruise, and now the current struggles of the coronavirus, including isolation in a home full of baking ingredients, I'm only 4 pounds over my goal. So that's Patricia. Then we got Thomas. So Thomas came to me because he had some long-standing digestive issues. that included severe abdominal pain and alternating constipation and diarrhea. So for Thomas, eating hurt, and that's not cool, right? As a result of his poor digestion, he was also struggling with chronic fatigue and poor concentration. So if we're not digesting properly, we're also not absorbing and metabolizing important nutrients. Okay, so this is really what was going on with Thomas. He had, so struggling with chronic fatigue and poor concentration, and he also had a small weight loss goal. But the dangling carrot was definitely digestion for Thomas, right? 2 weeks in, he was down 16 pounds. I always see this with folks that don't necessarily have a lot of weight to lose. So we adjusted his portions and, got the weight loss kind of stabilized. 8 weeks in, he had no more digestive upset, better energy and focus, and his bowels were regular. A treat meal was the real test. So he went out for some kind of fast food. I think it was Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he had no symptoms. So this was really huge, right? This showed that his body had, built up enough resilience to handle the occasional treat meal as it should. And he was feeling good. So Thomas also is the proud dad of a new baby girl, and he's pursuing a new career. So Thomas says, the one thing I thought was very cool about this metabolic balance program was the fact that I was able to find out exactly what foods are best suited for my body type. There were so many different varieties of foods that I'd never had before, so I got to experience new healthy foods for the first time that I quite enjoyed. It definitely got me out of my comfort zone. I do have to admit this journey wasn't an easy one, but I'm really glad that I decided to take this big step into changing my eating habits. I know I'm building a good foundation so I can live a long and happier life. I'm so glad that I had the pleasure to meet Kim. She taught me so much on what my body type needs to sustain a healthy digestive system. So Anne is 75 years young, and Anne was referred to me by her family doctor. She hadn't been feeling well for a while. She was struggling with low energy, angina, diabetes. Diagnosis was the final straw. So that was really, what kind of cemented the decision. So she started her plan in May, and by early June, she was down 17 pounds. By mid-June, she was noticing significant improvements in her energy level, which then resulted in a little bit more movement, right? So it just kind of happened organically as you start to feel good, as we put out that fire called inflammation. She was taking longer walks. She was only needing her sleeping meds occasionally at this point. And then by August, all of her lab values had improved, and her doc was really happy with her. And she was also able to reduce a few meds, right? So Anne says, metabolic balance, these are the words that caught my attention in a local newspaper when I was at a desperate low. By early 21, I was extremely fatigued and depressed and unable to stay awake for more than 3 or 4 hours. With a recent diagnosis of type 2 diabetes on top of many other health issues, I felt ready to die. I could not seem to stop gaining weight and started having angina for the first time in 20 years since my coronary artery bypass surgery. I didn't just need a weight loss plan. I needed someone to walk the journey with me. I thank God for Kim. She made this awesome recovery possible through her daily coaching and continuous support. It is now December 2021, and I honestly feel healthier than I have in 30 years. I have energy and I can walk without stopping to catch my breath. I no longer have cravings for sugar and carbs. And even though I gained back a little bit of the weight, I feel very balanced. My body is working in wonderful ways that I did not think possible. With my doctor's permission and encouragement, I have decreased my statin drugs for cholesterol and halved my proton pump inhibitor for acid reflux. I've been on these medicines for years. So this is a nice example of, it not just being about a number. So Anne mentions that she did gain back some of her weight. Often people come with a number, get there, and realize that they need to readjust, right? So it's really about how we're feeling. So Phil, when Phil came to see me, his exact words were, I have no patience for any kind of cutesy shit. That's exactly what came out of his mouth. He was very direct. And so he came to me with joint pain, and he had a weight loss goal. 2 weeks down, he was down 20 pounds. He was not a happy camper for the first 2 weeks, but he stuck with it and he did it. His wife was really great that supported him throughout the whole thing. 9 weeks in, he was down 39 pounds. So Phil really moved fast. His leg swelling was down, and he got the green light from his pharmacist to cut his blood pressure medication in half. Something that's important, or that I found interesting with Phil, was that he had, and these were his words, an extreme long-standing toenail fungus problem that, so something that he'd been dragging around for years and years and years, that completely cleared up very quickly. So whenever we're talking about toenail fungus, when we're talking about bladder infections, when we're talking about yeast infections, vaginal infections, we're talking about gut dysbiosis. So there's something going on in the gut. And again, that is one of the pillars that I really like to work on. So that was just a really good sign that he was doing a lot of good work for his gut, okay, which is fundamental, very important work. Phil also went to Europe throughout this, came back, got back on his plan, got back to where he was at, and it was all good. So he lost a total of 39 pounds. So this is Angelica. This is one of the only before and after pictures that I took. So Angelica has done she probably did her plan at least 3.5 or 4 years ago. So she came for weight loss. She was struggling with cravings. She had pretty bad eczema, energy complaints, concentration memory, so that kind of brain fog. And she also struggled with anxiety. So Angelica's goal was she started at 200 pounds and her goal weight was 180. So she had a very reasonable goal. She just blew right past that. In the picture here that you see, she was about 130. So she went down to as far as 130. And right now she's still sitting at about 140 or 150. All right. She's been working the program. She's really knows exactly what she has to do to keep her eczema under control. She's really made the connection with sugar. And she's recently started training as a yoga instructor. So she's recently also eating more plant-based. So that just goes to show that, we're not meant to eat in a stagnant way forever. So it's normal for our eating to change and for us to kind of play around. This is the last one. So this is Catherine. Catherine was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. She had the diagnosis for over 20 years. She had bloating, alternating constipation, diarrhea, and she was medicated. She was on immune suppressing medication for the Crohn's. Her goal was to learn the right foods to eat while living with Crohn's, and she had a small weight loss goal. So within 6 months of following her plan, she was able to discontinue all of her medication, which is huge, okay? Endoscopy results showed that she had little or no inflammation, and her doctor actually put her in remission. So she was free of that diagnosis. Her bowel movements were formed regular. So bowel movements are also a really good sign that there is inflammation going on in the body. Her bloating was reduced and she reached her weight loss goal really, really quickly. So Catherine was really able to, she also did her plan a couple of years ago, and she's really gotten good at being able to, oops, I've got somebody that's, that I can hear. If you could just put yourself on mute, and then we're getting to questions. This is the last one. So what I wanted to say about Catherine, it was really, she's really learned how to, just how far she can push things. All right. So she knows exactly what she needs to do to come back to center. So like I said, she's got those tools now. If she goes a little bit too far and starts noticing some of those red flag symptoms, she's got the tools to come right back. Okay. So that's it, folks. We still have a few minutes for questions. I just wanted to repeat. So if you have any questions that are a little bit more personal, you can certainly reach out. We can make an appointment. I'm doing everything on Zoom now. And yeah, so we can set up a half-hour chat, talk about your personal health conditions, and see if this is a good fit. You can check out my website for more information. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and we'll